We'll start off with a 10. You want to come be mitzvah for the million? All right. We'll make a quick siyum just to start off, make it into a sudas mitzvah. Chutzi shas, yeah. All the trades, all the business deals in the world, and I'm just going to sit and learn Torah. I mean, we teach my kids Torah. Tanya, Rabbi Nohirai Omer. Miach ani kol umanos sheba'olam ve'eini melamedes b'ni ela Torah. I'm not going to teach my son anything other than Torah. Shekol umanos sheba'olam ein oimedes lo ela b'mei yaldusai. It's only going to be good for you when you have strength to run the business. In the end of the days, the business is not going well, the guy gets old, and he's left starving. The Torah is not like this. It stands by a person when he needs it in his youth, and it gives him strength and hope in his old age. But if we want to connect this to Torah Reish Pei Beis and Azamra, then it's it's obvious that the Torah is something that carries on throughout the generation, throughout the years. Even if you only did, Rebbe says, a little good many years ago, you have every reason to be happy right now. You're 80 years later. What shaykhs? No, the Torah will remain with you forever. Maseches kidushin said Nafshi datan alach Maseches kidushin said Nafshi datan halan la nisnashem enough Maseches kidushin said Nafshi la nisnashem inon la ba'amadin va ba'amadasi hadan alach Maseches kidushin said Nafshi hadan alach datan alach Maseches kidushin said Nafshi datan lan la nisnashem enough Maseches kidushin said Nafshi la nisnashem inon la ba'amadin va ba'amadasi hadan alach Maseches kidushin said Nafshi hadan alach datan alach Maseches kidushin said Nafshi datan la this is Nishleim Inon, Ninach, Maseches kidushin said Nashim, the last is Nishleim Inon, La Ba'amadein, Va'aba'amad Da'asim. Ratzim Fnach Adein Elein Va'avesenu. Shtei Torascha U'monasenu, Va'olam Azav Seimenu, Va'olam Abba. Chanina Ba'papa, Rami Ba'papa, Nachman Ba'papa, Achi Ba'papa, Abba Moi Ba'papa, Rafim Ba'papa, Achish Ba'papa, Surcha Ba'papa, Ada Ba'papa, Dor Ba'papa, Harav Na Adein Elein, Hino Asdivei Sarascha, V'fino Fias, Amcha Be'izov, V'ni Anachnu Kolan V'tzetzein, V'tzetzein, Amcha Be'izov. Kolon yoy deshmach lein letzach lishma ma'oy tzachak mein mitzvah ki lo'olam hili bi samem buchakach man lo yevash lo'olam liyishkach pikudacha ki van chisani bo chata dinay lamdin chukacha amen sela vod modem nachnu lefnacha dinay lehin v'la v'senu samtach ken yosh beis medrash lo samtach ken yoy shvei kronos anu mashkim David Torah vehem mashkim devarim telem anu malim Anu amilim kadm sfar him amilim kadm sfar anu rotzim him rotzim anu rotzim chayil above him rotzim leir shachas nemar ata alihim taridim leir shachas an shidom mim lo yachti mim ani yaftach bach rotzim fnach adinei lehai shem shazatani yisayim Maseches kidushin said noshim tein ta'azenis haskol Maseches t'svam achem Simon lilmer lamed lishma v'las zakayim skol v'esh hamatersech v'avel schos kol atanom ha'morem ha'tzamid ha'chacham yam li v'zari shlo yisomesh t'ator mipi v'yizai v'zer zari ad oilam miskayim bi misalecha tancha oisach v'shachbcha tishmar alecha v'hakitzoisak hi sichecha ki v'yevu yamecha yesivucha shnoi tzchayim oyachem mimina b'smoy lo oishe v'chover adonai oiz la'ami yitan adonai v'achas hama v'sholei Iskara shmi abba. Hu lasil eskadasa achia Messiah astakal yasin achaya alma. Livnei karta d'Yisrael shakrola ekrola gava umeka pochana lufra minar asava pochana d'Yishnai asya yamle kutsu bichu v'mafushka v'ikar yasnach b'kodim kar v'shicha. Hey, v'leinu kan chol beisisa ba'agol v'makredim rameh. Hey, shnei abba v'bar ma'isbach v'shal v'spor v'smoy v'nisnasi v'sal v'sal v'kutsu bichu. Hey, the Gavas is just because in Nachmasa, me and my mother, I saw that I'm back to the name of Told Day, some name of Roman, the Osman, I said, Diva Asa, Day, the Diva Asa, Asa, Hoi, the Hoi, Shlama, Rav, the Fizz of Achman, the Chai, Michel, Zone of Wicked, for Konam, Kodam, the Avon, Mishmai, Vav, and Muamay. Some Rav Mishmai, kind of name, Vakoi Sodom, Muamay. Oh, it's a show, when we asked the show, when Vakoi Sodom, Muamay. I've got 15 bucks. I got the meaning.
It's like a ongoing series. No.
We're open every night over here. 8:30 to 9:30. Everyone's welcome.
Okay, it gives me less time to have to speak about the Shkoyach, thank you everybody. I'll take this off. All right, so let's get started with Azamra. Bezos Hashem. I was at siyum a bunch of years back. I think it was around 17 years ago. They made a siyum for LIKUTEY the Amar Yomi, and it was in Yerushalayim. It turned out it was on Shabbos, and I don't remember the exact story, but like the whole world was there in MOHARAN, and Rav Koenig was there, of a Shalom, Rav Loser, and it was very, very, very interesting how it came out. Like Shal Shudis, one of the Anash was there, and he was speaking, and he was giving it over the head. He was just like, you know, we're supposed to be Breslov Hasidim, we're supposed to be like this and like that, and we're doing nothing, and we're mamish, we're not doing anything the Rebbe asked, and we're not even, he was just giving it over the head. 40 minutes of Musar, mamish, like, you felt like, that's it, you're nothing. Then they daven Ma'ariv, and then they had this like in-between time, so they said, Reb Loser, get up and speak. So Reb Loser got up there in the MOHARAN Breslov Shul there, and he starts off, Ashreinu matay chelkeinu, zechus to zayin Breslov Hasidim. What we do in this world, we know, wow. And he went on for 40 minutes also, just nekudas taivas, how good we are, how beautiful we are. It was such a moment, you know. And so, you know, we learned the Torah of Azamra. I'll start off just reading the few words over here. And, you know, usually when I learn the Torahs, and I was always amazed that Reb Loser could sit there, and when he taught LIKUTEY MOHARAN, he would just sit there for all the years, you know, for as many years as he was teaching LIKUTEY MOHARAN and learning it, and he would just read the words, and I was like, I can't do that. I need to have pshatim and pshetlach and droshes and, you know, epiphanies. I can't just... And so I once asked your father, Mati, Reb David Zeilen of Hashem, I said, it's so hard for me. Like, I just need more, like, excitement in the LIKUTEY MOHARAN just to read the words. And Reb David said, Reb Loser holds that anything else takes away from the therapeutic, medicinal healing of the Rebbe's words. So it was like very beautiful the way he put it. And that's the truth. The truth is the way we should learn the Torah is just straight, just read the words and let it sink in. And so I'll start off like that, at least, lefachot. But after that, you know, Baruch Hashem, I've been zeicha, at least in this Torah, to be learning it for a while. And, you know, you come, you have different thoughts, different ideas, you learn with this person, with that person, different things come up, so hopefully you'll be able to share some of them also. Rebbe starts off that, and the truth is, that the whole Torah really of this Reish Pei Beis of Azamra is encapsulated in these few lines. Afterwards, it's just, a lot of repetition, and obviously it has meaning and it connects and everything, but for the Lamaisa, it's right here. You have to judge every single person favorably. Even if you see someone, he's mamish, he's an evil person, you have to seek inside and find in him some little good. That in that little good that you just found in him, in this Rasha, he's not a Rasha. And through this that you find in him, you pull out from him a little good, and you judge him favorably. You literally lift him up onto the side of good, onto the side of merit, and you could bring him back to tshuva. You could bring him back to tshuva. And then the Rebbe goes on to connect this to V'oid Ma'at V'ein Rasha, and eventually to Azamra like Kai Be'oidi, that basically that the little bit of good that you still find where he's not a Rasha, once you bring that out, he's not holding in the same place where he was. He's mamish lifted up to a new spot. He's not there. He's a different person. So it was cute. I was sitting there on Schar Bris in the LIKUTEY in Uman Baruch Hashem this year, and this random Hasidic bucher comes over to me and says, "No, let's learn." So I was like, "Okay, great, Uman Torah." So we sit down and we start learning Torah Reish Pei Beis, and I pointed out a point that I felt was a strong point from this whole Seder of how we learn, that there's a discrepancy. The first line that you read, I noticed the discrepancy. It says, Da, ki tzorech lo dunas kolam kavschos. That's not the words of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, have a donas called him l'chaschos. So you say, okay, you don't be so picky, have you done? Let's come. I said, no, I think it's teaching us something specific. Why? Because there's a difference between hevei, you should, and tzarich, you have to. And so I thought about it and I said, why? What's the difference between you should and you have to? There's a difference, I think. It's definitely, I've spoken to Israelis and they agree to me that there's definitely a mashma'ut that's different. So when I thought about it, I realized that when you come approach this Torah of judging people favorably and looking for the good inside of them, so you could say, I don't have to judge anyone favorably. I don't have to judge anyone. I'm going to stay in my Dalet Amos, I'm going to stay in my Svarim, I'm going to stay in my thing. I'm not going to bother anyone. No one bothers me. I'm not going to bother anyone. I'm not going to judge. Don't be judgmental. And the truth is that it's not real. That's what the Rebbe is teaching us, I think, in this first line, is that it's not real. Because when we open our eyes to this world and when we hear the voices in our brains, in our minds, there's always things that are splitting and that are identifying and making judgments. Meaning right now I'm looking and I'm realizing that there's a table here, there's drinks, there's cups, there's people. Every second of my life, I'm judging and making calculated decisions based on those judgments that I see around me. And the same thing is when you go into shul and you see a guy. So the second you see him, you're judging him. Oh, but I'm not judging him. No, you're judging him because you're making statements deep in your subconscious sometimes that guy, he's not such a good guy. I'm a good guy. Or, you say, I'm a bad guy and he's a bad guy. You're judging. You might not hear the voices, but they're there. So the Rebbe first starts off and says, Tzarich ladunas kolam kasets. You have to do this. It's something that you have to do because you're going to think, hey, I could, if I want to. If I don't want to, I don't have to. No, you have to do this because you're doing it anyways. You're judging anyways. So now, grab the reins of your mind and say, instead of just flowing along and thinking that I'm not judging, no, realize you're judging and now start to judge good. Start to judge the kafschos. So I was learning that with this kid, with this bucher, and he said something else, and I think it's very, very potent. He said, maybe the Rebbe is telling us also that you have to judge favorably, meaning that you have to do this. The Rebbe is going to say that through judging favorably, you bring back people to tshuva. So that means it's something that you have to do. It's not something that's an option, like, if you want to bring people back to tshuva, like in the curve world, do you want to be involved in curve or not? No, you have to be involved in this because this is the thing, like what we said before, this is the thing that's going to bring everyone back to tshuva. I was learning this Torah with Aaron a few days ago, Baruch Hashem, we had this chus, And he said a line that struck me that connects to this. When we learned this, and I never viewed it from that angle, we were learning this and said that you could bring back people to tshuva. He said, wow, that's such a responsibility. It's like, wow, you know, who thinks of Torah, Azamra, like, party, simcha. Who thinks of it as a responsibility, that you have this weight on your shoulder, ki'ilu, to bring people back, to judge them favorably, to look at them. And a few weeks ago, we all went through what we went through as Klal Yisrael together. We had this massacre on Simchas Torah in Eretz Yisrael. Whoever was there, you know, and heard the sirens and saw the faces and was there felt it much more than here. But anyone that even just heard about it, you know, it's moving everyone. It's moving the whole Klal Yisrael. And you see what's going on in Eretz Yisrael and all over the world, really, and you don't know what to make of yourself. You know, like this stuff was only supposed to happen when Mashiach came. That thousands and thousands of Yidden are like, we just want to put on tefillin, get us pair of tefillin. Hundreds of thousands probably of pairs of tzitzis. All we want to do is wear tzitzis. All we want to do is hug charedim and chilot. Like where this doesn't exist. Only like a month and a half ago, they were burning tires and throwing them at each other. You know, like what's going on? So, you know, you could say, you know, obviously it's an amazing thing, you know, that at least there's something good that's coming out of all this and it shows us. But it struck me at a certain point also that I had this thought. This is what it took to bring these Yidden that are sleeping out of their slumber, meaning, you know, you're sitting there not keeping Shabbos, not doing anything, and now all of a sudden 1,400 Yidden get slaughtered in vicious manner, and now all of a sudden you're like, you're shaken awake, and you're like, yes, you know, we should really connect to Hashem, and we should really... Yeah, it shouldn't be with a potch, that's what we're saying, but it was with a potch, and it woke us up, and we're together now like never before. But my thought process was, this is what it took to get them to wake up. And then the next thought was, wait a minute. The Rebbe teaches us that through Azamra, you wake people up. You wake them up that they want Hashem. They start to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I thought, this is what it took to get us, the people that know Azamra, to wake up and do Azamra properly. If we would all be sitting there in every shul, and every bus ride, and every taxi ride, and everywhere we went, and just looking at good, looking at Yidden, looking at Peis, looking at Yarmulkes, tzitzis, and just focusing on it and speaking about it and being besimcha, there would be a powerful wave everywhere. That's the responsibility that we had. So I don't think, you know, it's brought out in many svarim and many tzaddikim that spoke, you know, you could always blame the festivals and that's why it's happening. No, there's no festivals, it's all because of us. It's all because we, Shomer Torah Mitzvahs, have to work on something. And over here, it's amazing that we have the Torah of Reish Pei Beis that we're learning now, and we have this chus to maybe get involved in it and to make this powerful change without all of this not such good things that came out. So when I was learning this Torah, I had a few moments also around Rosh Hashanah time to learn it. I was learning with a 13-year-old bar mitzvah bachrim. Baruch Hashem. You learn with people, random, this person, that person, you learn something from everyone. And we were learning this Torah, we were speaking about the simcha, how the Rebbe is going to say in a few more lines, how this is not just something that you do for other people, that you're supposed to look at other people and judge them favorably and bring them back to tshuva, but it's something that we should use for ourselves, to be ourselves to simcha, so that we can open our mouths to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this boy asked me, he said, you know, we do this, like what we were speaking about before, and nothing's happening, you know, like we don't see people choser b'tshuva. Even in our own selves, we're like, oh, LIKUTEY, I put on tefillin and talis and this, wow, it's so geshmak, I'm so happy, yeah, and we go on being depressed, you know. So where is it? What's going on? What's happening with Torah Azamra that it's not really, so to speak, working in a certain sense? And I told him, based on a different Torah in LIKUTEY, I think, the Rebbe said that the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov are both inside of us. And the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov is basically when your worldview all of a sudden realizes that there's a God. There's a Borei Olam. Wow, like now you see these people in Eretz Yisrael. I just saw this story, you know, today this guy was just saying how, you know, this girl, Ori, got freed on Sunday. And just this past Shabbos, he was just saying, he was her uncle. He was saying, you know, I don't know what to do, but Borei Olam, if she gets out, I'll keep Shabbos. Like a day and a half later, she was free. He was like, he gets a phone call from his friend. He's like, I think she's free. And he's like, this is not a funny joke. Like, don't even joke with me with these things. He's like, no, I'm mad. Like, look on the news. He like hangs up. He's like, whoa. He's just like, so that he was interviewed on television there, and they were like, so no, you're gonna keep Shabbat? He's like, ma, yesh li brera. I have a choice. Borei olam, if you free her, I'm gonna keep Shabbos, and you freed her. You know, like, I don't have much of a choice over here. So like, you see this amazing thing. When you see Hashem, it's very hard to deal with it any other way. You see Hashem, kavalt. So that's the Yetzer Tov. But we have a Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara is inside of our heart and inside of our mind, and he's telling us very convincingly, often, many times during the day, there's no God. We're here. See, things are not going your way, things are not going right, you don't have everything settled, you're a loser, all these things. He's just telling us all these things, and therefore there's no God, nothing's happening good. And in the same voice, he's telling us, and you know what? You're the king, because there is no king. And look how bad you're doing, you know, like, look at your kingdom. You're not even ruling it well. You're not even getting things done. So we feel all tzamisht and, you know, tzebrachen. So when we get into that place, so we have to realize that the ana emlech, when we feel that taka, you know, I am running the world. So then it's very, very hard to feel any koiches in Azamra, because I'm supposed to be running the world. I'm a big tzaddik, I'm a big guy, and you know, what's the mitzvah of tefillin to a big guy like me? It's nothing. Everyone does tefillin. I do tefillin. The second that you start to feel and to recognize that there's something much bigger than you, that there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu that's Ein Sof, that everything around you is Ein Sof, so you begin to have a different perspective. I think this is just my Torah, so you know, take it for what it is. In last week's parsha, Meir, the lights are here. So in last week's parsha, we had the nefasha is that Avram and Sarah were Megayah Gerim in Haran. So you know, my first year married, I was married like maybe a few months. So on Parshas Lech Lecha, my wife gave me a shopping list that she wrote. She said, go get the stuff. So I'm in the shopping, I'm in Yesh there, and I'm like buying the list. I'm getting gefilte fish, gevaldik, this and that. And then I get up to this thing, and I'm like, what is she trying to tell me? Haran. I'm like, anger. I'm like, is she angry at me? Is she trying to tell me something? And I'm like thinking, and it's like, and it's this week's parsha, it's Lech Lecha, maybe she was trying to hint to it. I'm like, and then I'm like reading it slowly, Haran, Chrein, that makes more sense. Gefilte fish and Chrein, that worked better. And it was just Chrein. So, but the Lamaisa Haran means anger, right? Haranaf, it means anger. So here you have this line, and obviously the Pashut Pshat, Haran af. It can mean anger. It has a connection to anger.
I would just Haran.
Okay, there you go. So this is your Torah. So Haran can mean anger. So here you have, obviously the Pashut Pshat is Haran is a place where Avram was, where he was Megayah Gerim. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us something here also. So what is Haran, anger, have to do with making Gerim and doing these things? So I was thinking a little bit about it, and I said, Bicharan, in Haran. What is in Haran? So let's take the letters. David, what's in Haran? What's in a ches? In the side, the ches is a ches, yud, and a saf. It's a yud. The resh is a resh, yud, shin, so it's a yud. The nun is a nun of nun, this is a vav. Yud and a yud and a vav equal yud ke vav ke. Hashem, wow, Hashem is hiding in Haran. Hashem is hiding in our anger. Why? Where do we have Hashem, God, hiding in our anger? Anger is not where you associate Hashem. Haran, you know, when you're angry, you're totally disassociated with Hashem. You're worshiping Avodah Zarah. What is it? So this past Yom Kippur, I was lucky to get a hasaga in this. My special needs kid, he ran away on Shabbos Shuvah, and he does it every once in a while, and it's very dangerous, and it should never happen, but he ran, and we couldn't find him. So at that point, the whole family, like, basically just runs in six different directions searching for him. So we all started running at top speed, and I was running for probably 7 minutes, like as if like the marathon, you know, like I'm that guy that can run the 2-hour marathon. Like I was beyond any capabilities that I had, and everyone was running. And Baruch Hashem, one of my sons found him. We schlepped him back. We all got back there. I was like passing out. Everyone was passing out. Kitzer, the next day I felt it in my feet, like this insane pain that like I should not have run that strongly, but I was obviously inspired to do so. And then the next day on Yom Kippur, Baruch Hashem in Yerushalayim, on Yom Kippur you're not allowed to drive. It's a law. They block off all the streets. Only driving on Yom Kippur is emergency vehicles. Other than that, it's illegal. So we have certain people, the Goyim, that take our son, and they usually drive him out. So that day I had to walk him for an hour. Every Yom Kippur we did this when we were in Eretz Yisrael. So I take my son and we hold hands and we walk. So I'm walking for an hour on Yom Kippur, and I'm like, every step was like pain. Every step, just pain, pain, pain. I'm sitting there like, okay, listen. It was a beautiful walk. It was quiet. Everyone was in their talesim. It was beautiful. I davened nates. It was a beautiful walk. But Lamaisa, I was feeling this pain, and it got me thinking. I was like, it was a great day to have pain. You know, there's the day of pain, Yom Kippur. I was like, okay, Hashem, Baruch Hashem, you give me pain on the day of pain. I was like thinking, but why am I supposed to have pain on this day? This is the most beautiful, there's no days of filled with love and connection like Yom Kippur. Why would it be even called the day of pain? So I started to think, what is Inoi? So I started to think maybe it's connected to Ani. And Ani is someone that's in pain because he's lacking. Inoi, anytime you're lacking something, you have that anios, that you need something, you don't have it. It's painful. You need healing, you need money, whatever it is. So I thought to myself, and Ani is gematria kuf lamed. Kuf lamed is kal, it's easy. So what exactly does an Ani have that's easy? An Ani doesn't have anything easy. He has a hard time. He's always struggling to make a penny and struggling to pay his bills. The only thing that an Ani has easy is bittul. You come to him and you say, hey, you're the king of the world, you're so awesome. He goes, yeah, if I were the king of the world, then things wouldn't look like this. Things would look a lot different. And so, an Ani teaches us that Inoi, pain, is a place that's hard, it's difficult, we should never experience it. But when it's there, it's a place where we can recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there in ways that are almost easy, much easier when and everything's going your way, and you make the right light, and then every business deal is flying, and you're like, oh, you know, Hashem runs well, yeah, Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem, yeah, thank you, that's Gvaldik, you know. But, you know, push comes to shove, when it comes down to a time and a place where you, mamish, just reach that place where I just give up, that's a place where you could realize that Hashem really does run the world. Getting back to Azamra, when and if we have the Hashem in the Charan, when we're angry, when we have things that are not going our way, and we recognize that this is Hashem, we expand our view, we expand our focus, just being us, ourselves, we expand it to like the infinity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world. Then we can come and start looking and saying, wow, you know, when your 2 or 3 year old kids, they come and they dress up and they put on a Rebbe, yeah, you know, and they come and they're like, look, Tati, I'm a Rebbe. You say, oh, you're so cute. It's the sweetest, cutest thing in the world. I'm a policeman. It's so cute. Why? Because you're Zeus. You're not. You're 2 years old, but you're dressed up. It's so Zeus. It's so cute. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he looks at us, we're infants because he's infinite. And so when he looks at us and he sees us dressing like a yid, we have payas, we have a beard, whatever it is that we have, wearing a yarmulke. So we could say, oh, Azamra, wow, I'm wearing a yarmulke. Every yid has a yarmulke, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't look like that. He looks at us, he goes, look at my infant kid. He's dressing up like a yid. What does he want to look like? He wants to look like a yid. He's trying to daven, he's trying to learn, he's trying to say a few words of Tehillim. You get such nachas from it. Like when your kid opens up the siddur upside down and starts saying, you know, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, you know. Such nachas you get, even though he's just so little. So that's also the Nekuda of Azamra working sometimes, I think has to do with that also, is that when and if we can expand our view to see and to feel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very, 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 very large, then we'll realize that he gets tremendous nachas from these little, tiny, beautiful things that we do. So that's one Nekuda. There's another Nekuda that I thought of, that the Rebbe starts off speaking in Torah Reish Pei Beis, and take off on watch not to go overtime, that he speaks about, that he says, he starts with the Torah, Azamra, you have to judge other people favorably. And he goes on and on how you should do it, and you should look in the good in them and find the good, and through that you're going to raise them up. And then he comes along and says, and you should also do this for yourself, you should be besimcha. Like it says in the pasuk, Azamra ba'oidi shali, in my oid, in my little bit good that's still inside of me, I'm going to sing out and I'm going to be besimcha. Now it's a little funny because the Torah in a certain sense, is really Azamra, as it's known, and it's me, the ID, that I have to be b'simcha. And yet the Rebbe starts off the whole Torah, done as the other people favorably. So I think a certain nekuda is that when we say v'ahavta l'recha kamaycha, usually we look at it as a tzivoy. It's a command. You should love your fellow Jew like you love yourself. But in a certain way, it's not a command, it's a metzias. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, you can only love your fellow Jew like you love yourself. Which means that if and when you get to the point of Azamra lekai ba'oidi, that you see and recognize good points inside of yourself, that's the only time that you can start to use this on others. You have to be able to take yourself apart and look at all the bad, and like we spoke about the other night, the more bad you take, the humbler you could get, and the more joy you can get from that little good that you have. And if and when you're able to do that, then you could start looking at other people and say, look at this yid. This morning I was in shul, I looked up at the yid in front of me, and if we learn and we daven on Azamra, I just looked at the yid in front of me and I noticed his talis. He was wearing his talis, a nice chassidish yid davening, and I noticed how sharp his creases his lines were. It was just a beautiful talis with sharp creases. And I said, Rebbeinu Shel Olam. You know what that means? It says that you're supposed to fold your talis Motzei Shabbos. It's a gila for shul bayis, right? Everyone knows that. All the married people right away. It's Motzei Shabbos. Wife screaming at them, kicking them, go clean, do something, folding his talis, So it's a skula. Why? So it's brought down to understand it somewhat a little bit palpable that your wife is supposed to get you your talis, and you're taking good care of it, and you're showing her that you want this talis to last, you want your marriage to last, you respect that she got it for you, that you respect her, she respects you. It's an amazing shalom bayis thing. So I looked at this year and I said, Hashem, look at him, he's folding his talis every day. He takes 1.5 minutes out of his time, make sure that talis is crisp and clean, folded perfectly on the creases, and puts it away. He could just roll it up. You ever seen people sometimes they just take the talis, roll it up and stuff it in their bag? No, you didn't. They take time, they fold their talis. You can see Nekudas Tovas everywhere. So when we can find it in ourselves, I think it also helps very much to find it in other people. Just another Nekuda that I think is so beautiful, and it's probably everyone already spoke about this, so you guys have been learning the Torah, and in Koil, I can't imagine how much higher you are than me. I'm zecher to learn it like 10 minutes a day if I'm lucky, but the Rebbe brings down the pasuk. So the literal translation and the pasuk shot of the pasuk is that in a little bit more, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to wipe all the Hamas, all the murderers off the world. They're all going to be destroyed, and you're going to look where they were. You're going to look at Gaza. You're going to look at all these places, and they're not there anymore. They're gone. They're destroyed. They're wiped off the face of the planet. So that's the pasuk shot David HaMelech said. The Rebbe comes along and says, okay, but v'oid ma'at, in a little bit that you find in your friend or in yourself, v'ein rasha, in that place of little bit of nekuda tova, that he's mamish just good, that he did no bad. He does a mitzvah, and in the mitzvah, even with all the ulterior motives inside, there's a nekuda tova that's pure and beautiful. V'ein rasha, v'spenanta, you look and focus on that, and you bring it out, you're going to look at his place, and he's not there anymore. So it's just one nekuda is to see that how amazingly, different the Rebbe's interpretation. David HaMelech's literal pshat, which is a beautiful pshat, and it should happen right now. All the soldiers should be safe, and mama should do their job, and all the soldiers learning and davening should do their job, and we should all be together to wipe them off the face of the planet. But you see that the pasuk means a little bit more. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to destroy the evil, and it will be mamish decimated. The Rebbe comes along and says, in a little bit of good that you find, that person who is held in a bad place, he's lifted up to a new place. He's not there anymore because he's in a totally new place of positivity and goodness. So it's an amazing pivot of how you could look at a pasuk, and it could be such an intense thing of destroying Rishoim or lifting up the tzaddik within us all and bringing us to a different place. And so another nekuda is that the Rebbe says, you have to judge him onto the kafschos. So we grow up that, every time we say something in our house or do something, you didn't judge me the kafschos, you owe me a bracha. So we grow up with the kafschos that we probably never even think, what does the words mean? Like kaf, zechos. So we know, it's a scale. scale. The scale is going like this if you judge bad, if it's going like that if you judge good. The kaf is those little cups that are in the scale. But the Rebbe uses a lashon that you're lifting him from the kaf chayva to the kaf schus, which sounds like he is sitting in a kaf chayva and you just brought him into a kaf schus. So what is a kaf? A kaf means a cup. It also means your head in Yiddish, I guess. But in Hebrew, it also means the palm of your hand. It means a kaf is a spoon. It means anything that has a kli kibul. So I think what the Rebbe is trying to teach us is that the brainosa, exactly. This is where it's all found, in the cup. So the Rebbe is teaching us that your brain, your cup, you can only hold a certain amount of stuff in your cup, which means if your cup is filled, and I think that's also maybe what the Rebbe said, he says right away, Rasha Gomor. So Rasha is Rush Ayin. His eye, his soid, his beauty, his shine, his yayin inside is Rush. It's just, he has no belief in it. It's just downtrodden. He has nothing. A Gomer is a lashon of complete. It's also a lashon of Gemara. Gemara is teachings. That all his mind is teaching him and learning and teaching him all day is that he's nothing. He's nothing. He's nothing. And so his cup is filled with this negativity all the time. All he hears in his mind is running around negativity. There was failure. You didn't do that, and you didn't do that right. You didn't do that right, and you didn't do it. And this good thing that you did wasn't good, and the bad thing that you did was so bad. All day he's hearing those things. His cup is filled with negativity. You, from across the room, or him himself, when he starts to do Azamra, all of a sudden he sees a little bit. Yeah, it's true. The Rebbe is not brushing off and saying, let's just dance and forget about the world. No. We need to do Mila D'Shtuta, we need to do all these things. But the Rebbe is saying, no, accept the bad. It's real. You did it. It's there. Now, but how are we going to get out of it? We're going to only get out of it if we take the cup and we start to fill it with good. And we start to see a nekuda tova. We start to see another good thing that we did. We start to focus on it. We start, like we said, to focus on how big HaKadosh Baruch Hu is and how small we are and how much, therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets nachas, joy from every little thing that we do. Now all of a sudden our cup is filled with a little bit of gold, a little bit of goodness, and it starts to weigh down. And that's why the Rebbe uses the lashon that you lift him up from that cup to a new cup. He's in a new kli kibul. He's receiving new things. He's totally in a totally new place. He's not in the same place where he was. Maybe that's also v'ahavta l'reacha kamoi chaf. You have to love your friend like a chaf. You have to make sure that you fill his kaf, like you want your kaf to be filled with good things. So those are some nekudais that we were speaking about. Another question over here that came up is that, we always speak about the classical interpretation of Dan L'Skala and Makaf Schos is that you see a guy doing something and he's a Beinani. If he's a Rasha, Al Pi Halacha, you could judge him that he's doing wrong. If he's a Tzaddik, he's mamish for sure doing right or just tshuva right away. But if he's a Beinani, he's a guy that you don't know, you see him, he's doing something that you don't approve of, so you have to judge him favorably and say that he's doing the right thing. Now, it's cute, it's nice, but what does it really mean? Because if I judge the guy favorably, what does that do? Meaning, God knows what's happening. He has the eyes that sees everything. So he sees this guy going into McDonald's, and he sees him ordering a cheeseburger and taking a big bite. And me, I'm seeing he must have had an ulcer, and it was Nesakas and Nefashis. If he didn't eat that cheeseburger that second, he would die. So in Vada, you have to be Mechalal and, eat tray for food. And I'm making up this whole Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, no, the guy is not religious, and he's eating a cheeseburger. That's all. So what... my whole brain games, I'm thinking he's such a good guy, he's really good. So okay, I could say that it's for me, I should feel good, I should be always looking at things in a positive light, so it's good to look at things positively and try to believe in people, naively apparently, because that guy's really eating a cheeseburger. So what does it really do? So the truth is that in those places, I don't have a good answer. I'm still waiting for a good answer to that. But the Dan L'Kav Schos comes up a lot more in places that are a little subtle, and those places we have a lot of room to use the classical Dan L'Kav Schos. So I get into my minyan a few weeks ago, and we're like, Shiner is a big tent, it's hard to hear, and the guy gets up for laning, and he chooses to be the Baal Koirei, and he gets up and he goes, like, is he leaning? Yeah, and no one could hear him. A few people get up and start listening. I walked right in front of the guy, and I just was able to make out the words. I'm sitting there like, you're going to lean for people. There was 100 other people, probably some other guy knew how to lean, and he just, maybe he's being humble. And then the same guy gets Hagba, and I'm like, I like to see the Torah when they do Hagba. It's nice. You get Ruach HaKodesh. It's good to see the Oisiyas. Wow, it's beautiful. So he picks it up and goes, sits back down and like closes it up. I'm like, I didn't eat, I just missed it. I'm like sitting there. Come on, like if you're gonna do these things, do them right. And all of a sudden I said, let's say the guy went to a chasana last night. He had to go to Lakewood, Rahman al-Islam, and he traveled back at 2 in the morning, got back at 4 in the morning, could barely open his eyes this morning, schleps his body out of bed to make it to Minyan at 7 o'clock. He could barely open his eyes. He gets there, he lanes, he has no koyach anymore in his thing. He wants to just get home. He picks up the Torah, closes it. So I made up a story. Did it really happen? Doesn't matter. You know why? Because whatever that guy's reason was, in this situation, you could judge him favorably. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe the guy is working on his humility and he has a big gaiva issue. He used to lane, someone told him, you're a Baal Gaivas. Now he's going the other extreme. Who knows? I could come up with 1,000 excuses of why he did those things. The point is that when I see another Yid, I don't have to just say in these ambiguous places, he's an Eisvarf, he's not doing things right. Why? I could judge him favorably and I could make up stories and those stories help. And then obviously when we come to the Rebbe's thing, I could say he's an Eisvarf. He's doing it stam, he doesn't care about anyone else, he's a narcissist and all that things. But look at his tefillin. He's wearing tefillin. See what he just did. He davened, he said brachas, he was just folding up his talis on the creases. I could be done the kavschus by the Rebbe no matter what. And that's the beauty of the Rebbe, like getting back to what we were saying in the beginning, that the responsibility is on us to go out and just learn the Torah, daven the Torah, and then open our eyes and see Nekudas Torahs everywhere, Be'ezus Hashem. So if and when that responsibility is on us, so it's an amazing thing that the Rebbe gave us, such a blessing, right? All the time you see them making Kanai Nahar now, it's like, I feel like it's reached critical mass. You open up your phone and there's 18 different valid, amazing organizations asking you for money. It's like, if I would give $10 to all these things, I would be bankrupt in at least probably a day or two. It's just overwhelming. Baruch Hashem, there's so many tzedakah organizations. Why? Because everyone realizes that you want to do things right, you got to have the damam, you got to have the geld. You want to make a kiruv organization, you got to have $1 million. You want to build a kiruv building, put in $1 million, it'll be mechubad. You want to go out and spread your message on Instagram and TikTok and all these things, you got to have a proper digital guy and you got to put it out properly, you got to have another $1 million. All these things, we want to bring people back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It costs money, it's got to be done right. The more organized it is, you go to these organizations, they mamish have it down to a science and the fundraisers and everything. The Rebbe said, Breslov Hasidim, you know what you need? $0. You need efes. You need to have a teeny drop of space in your head, eyes that open up and see what's going on around you. I was once in Rabbi Shimon, I was zeicher with this, I'll end. I was always zeicher to be by Rabbi Shimon for Shabbos, only once when I was a bacher. It was a wild Shabbos on many levels. But one of the cool things that happened was that in the middle of Shabbos afternoon, I was sitting in the tzion of a Rashbi, and I just happened to have been in this table. It was a bench with a table, and there were 2 Sephardi Bachrim on both sides of me, and it was like against the wall, and I was just stuck. I was like, Valdik is a great place to be stuck in the tzion of Rashbi on Shabbos afternoon with a Tikkun HaKlali and a Gemara and a LIKUTEY MOHARAN. What's there better? So I was saying Tikkun HaKlali, and I was getting up to the part where you're starting Tikkun HaKlali, you're supposed to give tzedakah, and I was like, I always like to try to give some tzedakah, do something, even on Shabbos. You could give tzedakah on Shabbos. You could smile at a guy, say, how you doing? You could do 1,000 different ways of get a guy do a chesed for another person. It's tzedakah for Tikkun HaKlali. I'm sitting there, but now I'm stuck. Even if I want to do, these 2 guys are sitting there davening and learning, and I'm going to bother them and say, hi, how are you? I'm stuck. Right at that second, this smarty kid stops and goes, slicha, there's a ta'ut in your Tikkun HaKlali. You should be careful, not to say it in a mistake. So I goes, really? Bemet? Show me the ta'ut. So he goes, look at kuf hey. So I look at kuf hey, and he shows me by haidu that the words are all mixed up. Instead of piu, it says piv. Instead of umem shatacha, it says mem shat. He said it's a mistake. And I said to him, my sweet tzaddik, it's not a mistake. This is Tehillim. What we say in Pesukei Azamra is from Divrei Hayamim. So you're right. That's the nusach in Divrei Hayamim, and that's the nusach you say every morning. But in Tikkun HaKoli, this is the proper nusach. He goes, Bemet? My whole life I was correcting it. Toda. I'm going to say Tikkun HaKoli right now for the first time. I was like, wow. I'm sitting here. I want to do tzedakah. I get to say Tikkun HaKoli for the first time in his life. Wow. So the Rebbe gave us a gift that we don't need you don't need money, you don't need $1 in your pocket. You could just open your eyes and open your heart, take a little space in your brain and your heart and your mind and your mouth, and just look at Yidden in the positive light, look at ourselves in the positive light. And with that, Be'ezus Hashem, we should be zeicha to see this aura of Mashiach that's mamish flying throughout the world, continue to grow and to grow and to grow through Hatzlacha and Simcha and Ava. Shkoyach.
Amen.
Chaim.
na 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 na